Anthony, so great to see you, man. How are you?
Great to see you. Why are you in a good mood?
June 1st, that's why.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey everybody, welcome to No Vacancy Live, your place to get all of the hospitality news and insights you demand to empower your career and your business. I'm Glenn Hausman. That's Anthony Melchiori. Anthony, you asked me, why am I in a good mood? I'll tell you why. Because I went to see my kids' last final, the end jazz concert since they're seniors in high school, and it was so much fun. One of my sons, Jake, actually, they played 6 songs, and he had solos on 4 of them. So I'm feeling very proud daddy today.
Wow.
Yeah.
They get all their talent from their mother, huh?
That's absolutely right. Listen, my musical talent is paying to go to see Fish shows. That's about all I
Your
do.
musical talents, you hang out with Tupac and
Back in the day, baby. Yeah. And reach out to me if you want to hear any of my great stories about hanging out with rap artists in the early to mid 1990s. But Anthony, I'm here with you today, and we got a lot of exciting things going on. But before we get started, I just want to tell everybody that I'm really excited that Radisson is continuing to sponsor us. Make sure that you check into them. Reach out to RadissonHotelsAmericas.com. Check out their development page, which is listed right below because they've got great products. The recently introduced Radisson Inn and Suites. And right now, I'm crushing on Radisson Red after my experience there last week. Really stripped down to its essentials. Perfect for owners, great for guests. How are you feeling?
You know, with so many brands out there, it's great that to see the Radisson Red actually separates itself from all the others.
Yeah, it really did. And it's really cool. And I'd like to see more of them. So that's my challenge to you developers out there. Let's get some more of those properties around there so I can have some fun eating, drinking, and not getting to sleep in one of their hotels because they're just too darn fun. All right, Anthony, anything going on with you today before we jump right into it?
Not really. I got up early this morning, and the first time I think I've ever done this, but I had 2 workouts this morning instead of 1. I had my regular workout, and then I went to Orange Theory. So if anybody's an Orange Theory, it's an ass kicker.
Yeah.
So my daughter wanted to go. I said, "Come on, I'll go." So I went from one workout to another, and that was an ass kicking.
Well, good for you, man. I had 2 cups of coffee this morning. So that was a workout. I had to go and make the coffee. So that was very good.
But now I'm backed up. So
talk about getting backed up. One of the things we're starting to see are lines at the airport get backed up because so many people are traveling, and it's great to see travel coming back. And Anthony, one of the cool things is that every year we get our friends over at the TSA on to talk about how they're innovating, how they're changing things, how they are striving to make folks' lives easier. That's why we got back with us Dan McCoy, Chief Innovation Officer with the Transportation Security Administration, known to you and me as the TSA. Dan, so great to see you.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me back, especially coming up to the summer travel.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. Hey, before we start, can I ask you one question?
You may. You can ask me many questions.
90% of the people that go through TSA, can they read and listen or no?
All right, Dan, we don't want to get you in a quagmire 1 minute.
That's the exit over there. Sorry, guys. I got to get out of
here. There's 100 people online. 90 people aren't listening to the TSA agent and are not reading the signs. And 10 of us who are professional travelers, I don't get upset at all. I try to help people. I move their stuff. I say, no, you have to take your shoes off. I literally I'm a helper, but people just don't listen. And it's and then all of a sudden you see people taking these big 18, ounce bottles or 36 ounce bottles of water and makeup. And they're like, I didn't know.
I'll tell you, I was talking to another publication a few weeks ago, the company Dime, business travel kind of, they said, well, how can we help TSA for the summer travel? What can we do? I said, you guys know what you're doing. You and the people you support know what you're doing. So we just want maximum efficiency from you all. Divest what you know you need to divest, get pre-check, get there on time, prepare to maybe sit in the lounge for a little bit.
Yep.
To your point, Anthony, we got to focus sometimes on passengers who don't come through the checkpoint.
And also, if you're a person that's running through and say, can I get in front of you? The answer is going to be yes. I'm always going to let you in front of me. But in my head, I'm going to say, why didn't you do what I did and get to the airport 2.5 hours earlier?
Plan ahead.
I've flown, I don't know, 1,000 times in the last 2 years, and I've never been late for a flight. I've always been on time. I've never had to run through a flight, and I always get there 2.5 hours before. And you don't have to run in front of me and say, "Oh, can I go? Can I go?" Because I know what happened. You didn't leave on time because you said, "Oh, there's traffic." Well, guess what? In New York City, there's always traffic. So people need to give themselves time. But I was
What,
that
it
guy
takes
with
an hour to get to JFK?
Yeah,
but I,
What?
but I was one of those. I was one of those people the other day. They pulled my bag, and I was like, "Oh, damn! I knew what I did. I left one of those little Delta bottles in my bag, like on the side panel." And I was like, "Oh."
Look
And
at
the guy
you
goes,
making them work harder.
and the guy looked at me because he knew like I looked like a seasoned traveler, and he just gave me the, "Come on,
You're better than that. Exactly. They
you're
know.
better than that.
They
You're
know.
better
They know who the people are. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
let me save you for a second here. Get this off on the right foot. The reason why so many people don't know what's going on is because we are seeing incredible levels of travel. All these people that may not have been on an airplane in a very, very, very long time are getting back on board. Just look at the numbers yesterday. In 2020, only 267,000 people went through. In 2021, that was up to 1.68 million. And for reference, back in 2019, it was 2.24 million that went through. And yesterday, 2.108 million went through, nearly the same. And I would say if you added back in all those flights that probably got canceled, it would have been a number that was beaten.
And,
right?
and a big part of it, I would imagine, corporate travel is down. So that's a lot of leisure travel.
Yeah, I coming into the weekend, right? We were all prepped, ready, wanted to kind of understand where the expectation was versus what's coming up. And yeah, Glenn, to your point, I think we're about 8% off for, it's hard to compare day to day, right? What was the Monday, what was the Friday for the holiday weekend,
That's
but
right.
aggregate for the weekend, the average looks about 8% off 2019. So you add in some of the other challenges, COVID is still around. There's definitely still some people who are reticent to travel, but add that canceled flights. I'm on the East Coast, right? We've had weather. I was flying back from Louisville to DCA the other day. We got diverted to Richmond. So we know flights are getting canceled. We know that there's some staffing issues at the airlines as well. But, those to me are pure numbers to 2019. That's a strong indication that travel's coming back.
Yep.
Yeah.
You look like you're going to say something.
When people ask me about travel, what I tell them is, wait till the summer's over. If you want to pay really high prices, if you want to not get housekeeping services, if you want to get service at hotels, and that's probably mediocre right now because it's so crowded. I hate to say that. Just wait till the summer crowds are over and then go in a little bit more of a downturn. And you can maybe get a better bang for your buck. But right now, if you go, don't get mad that the lines are long. Don't get upset that people are spent. I mean, TSA agents get a bad rap. I will tell you the TSA agents at JFK
are awesome.
Maybe they aren't. No, maybe they're not getting a 5-star Forbes rating. Okay, but most TSA agents around the country, most of my experiences are great, and I'd say some of my experiences at JFK are great. But some people are, it's tough, man. It's a tough job, and especially when people don't listen, it makes it even more difficult.
Yeah, and getting back to that, right? We've had the ups and downs coming back from travel, but we at the headquarters level and even down to the leadership level at all the airports, the key takeaway for the last few years is just the tremendous pride that we had in the workforce's resiliency and what we could do to help support and understand that there were times we could have done more. There were times we needed to move faster, right? I can't say that we did everything exactly on time. I wouldn't be a chief innovation officer if I didn't say we could always be moving quicker. We could always be a little bit more supportive, but really the resiliency of our workforce is what's gotten us through the last 3 years or 2.5 years with this pandemic. So going into the summer, Anthony, to your point, right, expect that surge back, that pent up demand for travel, and just plan ahead. TSA is facing some of the same staffing issues that every other major entity is facing. We're doing our best to onboard officers and get them the pay equity that they so justly deserve for the last few years and since TSA's inception. So as that's going on, maybe some lines specifically at some larger airports will have longer queues, but we're trying to augment it to the best of our ability. We are we're augmenting with new technologies. We're augmenting with better processes or more efficient processes where we can. But, we're feeling some of the same challenges that everybody is. So going into the summer, just remember your officers are there to be as respectful as possible. Make sure that this goes off without a hitch for everybody. We're in a no-lose situation.
I'll let you know I'm helping you out because I'm taking one of your TSA supervisors who happens to be my best friend from high school golfing in Miami next week. We're going for 2 days. So he's going to get some rest and relaxation. So he'll come back ready to work again.
That's what we need to hear. Exactly. And that wasn't a gift. This is friends.
Yep.
This is a government gift situation.
No,
These are prior friends. He's paying his own way.
He's paying his own way. Listen, he's retired Navy. And he's working for TSA. He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
So, Dan, we're talking about some of the airports and some of the nuances between them. I'm going to guess Orlando's probably the hardest airport to go in because of the nature of it typically being folks that don't travel often and folks that have families and kids that are confused and all of that kind of stuff. So instead of dwelling on that, what are some of the airports where people really have their act together? Is it JFK? Is it LaGuardia? Is it somewhere else?
That is a great question. And I can't say with any real,
we'll just say anecdotally, not based on specific data, just what you're
in other words, make shit up.
Yeah, I was going to say, pull it from thin air. No, I can, from where I've traveled through, right? So just in the last week, I went through DCA, I went through Manchester, New Hampshire, I went through Boston, Logan. Seamless at all of them. I mean, DCA just went through and did a complete capital investment redesign of how the checkpoints are laid out, and it's phenomenal. The equipment's up and running. The workforce there is engaged. They're timely. Everybody's executing to high capacity. It's fun sometimes flying into Manchester. It's a small airport. Right. You get off the plane, you can see the exit. It's just right there. All the cabs and Ubers are queued up. So those ones I know are good. LAX has been doing great. I mean, they've been really strong with their staffing and continue to be strong with staffing. So seeing the
I'm excited because they just had a major expansion of the Delta terminal. They just opened up a brand new terminal over there. I'm going to be flying out of LAX on the 14th, and I can't wait to see how it's different because it must be great when you partner with whomever is building or designing the airport when it's brand new, like they're doing at LaGuardia, right now, like we just saw at LAX. It really gives you an opportunity to reimagine how things are done. And I feel like that goes back to when Denver reinvented themselves, for example.
Yeah. And a lot of that too, that partnership, that co-discussion, right? They have engineering firms, architectural firms, design firms that are constantly collaborating with TSA leadership, our compliance teams, our technology teams. What we get asked the most, and what I get asked the most specifically is, we're making this really big capital investment and we want to be like LaGuardia and some of the larger airports. We want to be the gateway to America. We want to be, when people show up and they land, they feel this is what the best of our infrastructure looks like. So we're constantly asked, what's the next technology that we can forecast? And then how do we prepare for it? Is it reinforcing some of the areas that we have? Is it broadening the footprint? What is TSA going to need from us? And then what the airport groups will ask for in return is we want the most modern technology. We want to have limited queues so we can get passengers in faster so that their time at concessions, their time in lounges. We want to get passengers through quickly so we can board them. And, one thing that a lot of people are asking us is how does TSA help facilitate kind of a curb to vessel biometric access? How can you go through and bag drop, go through security, and then board the plane just using some type of biometric? So we love that partnership when a new airport is going through that redesign. Pull us in and help, and we can figure out some really cool, unique ways to drive innovation forward, because it's not all about just the new technology. Sometimes it is about how the checkpoint's laid out. What's the architectural type look like? How are you routing passengers, and where are you making those decisions?
And I think people, if I can do a public service announcement, because I think people make a mistake. They're like, I had to wait. It was delayed. I was canceled, whatever. The lines were long. There's two primary objectives. One, making sure no one gets through TSA that doesn't belong going on the other side of the gate. Number one. Number two, making sure the plane doesn't crash. Okay. If you do those two things well, I'm having a good day. Even if I get delayed, even if my flight gets canceled, even if I miss my golfing trip, which I hope I don't.
You won't.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, my friend Kevin and I have this conversation all the time. It's like those are the two main objectives. Make sure I get on a plane with somebody that doesn't belong on a plane. I would appreciate that, and making sure that plane doesn't go down. Everything else,
Yeah.
like we forget, like, oh, I have to take my shoes off. Oh, it's a long line.
I don't take my shoes
And you
off.
guys are always working on efficiencies, but at the end of the day, you're looking at trying to keep her safe.
Yeah, that's we kind of talk about it, and it's funny. This is how DOT talks about it with the FAA.
Right.
Security is the core of our mission, their mission. Safety is the core of their mission. Security is the core of our mission.
Yep.
Innovation is the bleeding edge for both, right? How are you making this better? How are you staying ahead of emerging threats? How are you staying ahead of traditional threats that might be shaping in different ways? I mean, that's the innovation perspective that we're bringing along with some of those passenger experience and those throughput efficiencies that we're always keen to have in general, because that improves not just the passenger, that's the officer, right? We want to make sure we're best arming and supporting our officers out in the field with what they're asking for. And a lot of those things are process, their innovation, their technology, and we want to make sure all of that's available to them. So the core mission is still security, but everything else, the bleeding edge, where we're moving forward and where we're pushing, is all to benefit that security mission that we have. So it's a tightrope walk sometimes to kind of match that.
Yeah, it certainly is. But I think the fact that the last incident that we had was more than 20 years ago, before your agency even existed, says a lot about the job that you're doing. So it's easy to cast stones, but the truth of the matter is it's been safe and secure.
This is a stupid question, but what happened before 9/11? What did we have before 9/11? We had the X-ray machines and stuff, didn't we?
It was so post 9/11, the big change was that the security apparatus became federalized, right? So we have 440 federalized airports that are doing the screening, staffed by TSA. Previously, it was more FAA regulation. Thou shalt do XYZ as a contractor at a local airport. What happened after 9/11 and then going into the creation of both TSA and the Department of Homeland Security was really federalizing that workforce, rebadging them, and then bringing them into government employment. And that's the way it's been since 9/11. What is strange, and this is a result of the attack, is the U.S. is really the only regulator operator in the world in this. So CATSA in Canada, what the UK does with the Home Office, they regulate, and then airports will contract out that work compared to TSA, where we staff it and regulate it from that space.
Right. Interesting. All right. So Kyle is asking, hey, at an airport hotel in a major market, tons of guests very stressed about getting through security quickly. Can airports have an app for security lines on how long it gets to the gates? Hey, they got that at JFK right now. So is that something that? Oh yeah. I see. The only reason why I know that I have clear, so I always zoom through, so I don't worry about that sort of thing. But when I'm on the air train, there's signs all over advertising it and throughout the airport.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So is JFK the only one, or is this something that you're seeing spread across the country now, Daniel?
So this is spread. I think there's kind of the what people want, and then there's the how you kind of get it to them. So this is something we've actually had. My team runs a design thinking cohort, one of our first kind of innovation trainings for TSA. We always talk, my main role, right, is people, platforms, technology, and training to get more innovators. We want more entrepreneurs at TSA, but their problem statement really was involving real-time wait time. So how are we best aggregating across the US what the wait times are in real time at individual checkpoints? And then how are you using that both to communicate with passengers and then using it to better staff and better articulate what the needs of the airport are? So the My TSA app today that anybody can download will fetch, based on your geolocation, the closest proximity airport for you and tell you what the average wait time is for both pre-check and the standard lane. Where it gets tricky, right, and this is moving into a little bit of a tech space, but the API economy. I don't think every airport wants to have their own maintained app. I don't think they want to have the JFK app or the Port Authority app. So how do you make that information widely available and accessible to, let's say, our airline carriers? So you log in, let's say you're flying, Glenn, you said you were flying Delta in the next few weeks, right? Delta can integrate that in and provide that information to say, hey, Glenn, if you're going to show up, you're going to probably wait in line for 8 minutes if you have pre-check. So prepare to show up with at least that 8-minute buffer.
Right.
We want to start getting better at capturing that data and making it more available, either through a super app in partnership with TSA and the airline carriers, or really just have it as an API or some type of software development kit where different groups can fetch the data and then present it to their customers as they best see fit.
When do we get to the point where as soon as I get on the perimeter of the airport, you take a picture of my face, I have a ticket, and I just walk to the gate? When do we get to that? 10 years? 5 years?
It's very dependent on who you are as a passenger. What you've described, right? That biometric full access, it's a tricky situation. One, civil rights and liabilities. We want to make sure that we're protecting passenger data to the best of our ability. We are a security agency. We do have biometric and biographical information about folks. But, Anthony, for someone like you, if you have pre-check, you've opted in already to some type of biometric being captured of you, whether it's fingerprints or facial ID. That is in the pipeline right now with our new credential authentication technology that's rolling out across the country now. The next iteration of that, which is in field testing, it's also the iteration that's testing the mobile driver's license pilot. That has the possibility, again, if you opt in, where you could walk up to the checkpoint, you would just scan your face, it would match you, it would know that you're coming through. You would still have to, divest property. You'd still have to put your bags through the CT or AT machines, computed tomography or just advanced technology. But that is on the horizon. I mean, that is in the pipeline right now for something our software teams and our requirements and capabilities teams.
Will there ever be a time where you can just do that to everything that's on me, my luggage, my bag, my face, and just clear me right through without me having...
We're talking total recall.
Total recall. This is such a funny example because I always talk about total recall as, what people want. We hear from passengers, but I was on a podcast a few weeks ago and I got the exact opposite reaction to that. That's the privacy invasion. That's the, how much more do you need to know about me? How much post 9/11 security is too much? So what we really want to do is roll that out in increments so that it's not just dropped on airports at once. We just qualified.
Slippery slope to privacy issues there, Dan.
Yeah, it is tough because those are right. I was saying to folks, ACLU, our privacy friends, we look at them as partners, and whether that's Pollyanna to think that way, I'm not sure, but we want to know exactly what people are expecting and anticipating, what they're comfortable with, and then on the back end, we do need to make sure that that data is as safe and secure as it can be, right? That's a responsibility that we have. So, to answer your question, it's on the technology horizon, right? I mean, as we've seen this grow, that becomes more and more of a possibility as we've seen changes moving from backsplatter X-ray, which was the old one, into millimeter wave. It's in that kind of progression, but what we want to do is bring piece components of that in throughout the next, 10, 20 years, so that it's kind of an easy transition for everybody to get with. So whether it's a flat panel walkthrough versus the kind of hands up it is right now, that's in the pipeline, is something that we would do. We've recently commercialized out of one of our national labs a shoe scanner technology. So it's kind of integrated in with some of the other systems. You would stand, instead of having to take your shoes off, it's doing what we need from a security capture, just in transit. So we're always looking at how do you get there, but how do you get there incrementally so that you're bringing value to officer and passenger in real time.
Also, it's not too much of a change for people. It's much easier to integrate one new change at a time instead of a slew of changes. And honestly, the U.S. government already knows absolutely everything about each and every one of us. I'm not saying you should comment on that.
There you go. There you go.
I give everything in my tax returns. It's on my driver's license, my face. Y'all, and believe you me, if I'm not paying my taxes, they know where to find me. So
it's to a point that Anthony made at the outset, though, right? Is those changes as you kind of go through, in the innovation world, we're always about kind of fertile chaos and driving variation. So we're assessing and testing new technologies and new
Right.
processes and everything. But from a passenger perspective, if you fly out of JFK and then land at let's say LAX, and then you're coming back, you're familiar with the process, whether it's you just use a CAT machine, you put in your ID,
Right.
or at LAX, maybe you have to show your boarding pass. That change and then not messaging that there's a different process, right? That's where we get those.
Yeah.
Anthony's number was 90%. I'm not sure it's 90%, but who's reading, who's listening?
Right.
Sometimes the process just changed because the technology changed. And that's something we as TSA, I think, need to get a little bit better at, from not only supporting passengers, but our officers, to say, this is what you should say to a passenger when he or she comes up
Right.
and isn't familiar with it. Explain to them why this is different from their prior travels. Right now we're piloting the mobile driver's licensing in Arizona and Maryland, making sure that the officers who are manning that equipment know how to articulate what the process is to passengers so that we can better assess how much throughput improvement this is generating.
What is mobile
scale.
driver's license?
So we're piloting it right now with Apple. It was an amazing partnership that we've developed over the past few years, but with local states, DMVs, and Apple and TSA, we have piloted so you can load your driver's license onto your Apple wallet. You'll bind it to the phone through some type of biometric match. And then when you come up to a CAT machine, rather than taking out your license, your ID, and putting it in, you can merely just do the double tap, do it, and then it will compare that to the face that you're presenting at the checkpoint, and you can go through directly. So very cool technology, great partnership, and something that's in pilot right now for viability and feasibility.
And that's, in 6 years, 5 years, that's going to be typical, right? I mean, everyone's going to have it.
But there is a bridge between now and then, Dan. Why don't you answer that, and then I'll talk to you about the next thing about ID.
Yeah. No. I appreciate it. So that is an ecosystem that we have to work with, right? So we have to make sure that at the state level, they accept a mobile driver's license. We have to make sure that passengers are doing it. Not everybody, again, has an iPhone. So how do you roll it out to a broader number of smartphone partners and providers? But yeah, I mean, over time, that will become more available and more usable. We are putting the systems in place over the next few years that will have that mobile driver's license reader, which will be able to kind of facilitate this. But yeah, over the next few years, I mean, that's something that's definitely going to grow. And I think the benefit for TSA and the US at large, right, is just kind of like the network effect. We're bringing it out. There's going to be other places that do it too. So anywhere else you might brandish your driver's license, anywhere else you might need to validate your identity, moving it to a secure biometric bound, iPhone, it's just helpful in general. So we think it's really great.
Biometric bound. It's like if I want to use Samsung Pay, I have to use my fingerprint first, even to make that information
exactly.
All right.
Yep.
Cool.
Exactly.
Right. So in that same vein, what about the future of real ID and stuff like that? Because this is something you've been trying to get going now for, I think, like 4 years. It was delayed because states couldn't get their act together. Then COVID happened, and we had more important things to deal with. Where are we at right now? Is it coming this October? It's going to be our 5th annual coming this October party, I think, if that's happening.
I think it's our 2nd annual coming this May.
All right. Okay.
Party. Not to be glib about it. It is.
It's been challenging because
it has been
states to have the right thing, and you don't want your travelers to be caught off guard and say, no, you can't come into here, like Disney World is telling people who don't make a reservation.
Yes. Yeah. So May 3rd, 2023, the Real ID enforcement goes into effect. There is going to be a gated process with that. So smarter people on the regulatory side are working on that right now, I can assure you. Thinking about how we message that out, thinking about how it goes for the next few years as that's coming. But yeah, May 3rd, 2023. Right now, one of the things you kind of pointed out, Glenn, is I live in Virginia. If I go to renew my license, I don't have to qualify, or I don't have to get Real ID. In states, I believe, like Texas, you have to do that. So if you're going to go get your ID renewed, they kind of inscript or subscript you to getting
Right.
real ID.
So what happens in May if you don't have the real ID? You can't travel?
So we're working on the plan right now. We ask people, right, if you have the ability to, please do get real ID ahead of May 3rd. If you are real ID compliant today, meaning you have a passport or another real ID compliant type identification, make sure you bring that to the airport. What we're working on now is those post May 3rd kind of mitigation steps and engagement. So whether it's you have a few allowances that you can come through for a year, where a TSO will remind a passenger, hey, please get real ID compliant. We're working right now to better capture who's coming through the checkpoint with real ID so we can kind of assess where we're off base as far as frequent travelers go and likely travelers versus who's showing up and what type of ID they have. So there'll be some grace period, I believe, about when you're not going to be allowed to board a plane. We're working that with our internal partners, our DHS partners, and our industry partners. I don't have the specifics on that right now. Like I said,
still a year away.
Much smarter
4 or 5 years
people are
away.
thinking about this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we still encourage everybody as soon as you can get real ID compliant to make sure you're not caught off guard traveling for next summer.
Yes, sir.
Teacher, I have a question.
Anthony in the first row.
Sign Epstein's mother. I'm always wondering this, being on the plane. Sometimes I look, most of the time I forget, but sometimes I look. And you probably can't answer this question. But does every flight have a undercover TSA agent on it? Okay,
Good answer.
No comment.
I like that. Well, that silence said volumes right
You
there.
know, I do sometimes see somebody. I'm like, they're undercover TSA, because you can see like they get on the plane like quicker. They show an ID. I don't know. It just looks a little suspicious to me.
They're not drinking in first class. There's a lot of telltale signs over here, but we're not going to get Dan in trouble today. Maybe the next.
Not on this question, but I'm sure there'll be another one.
We got a lot. We got a lot more that are.
I got a good question. Who do you like better, me or Glenn?
Don't answer that
The
one.
answer is Suzanne.
Can't handle it. Yeah. So, Dan, one of the things I love is that you're continuing to innovate and you're working with outside partners. I use one of those outside partners to be able to reliably, essentially skip the line. Yep. I use my eyes and I get nice friendly nods from TSA.
It kind of clears the line.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. Clears it right away. One of the other experiences I had at LAX, and I'd love to hear more if this is going to be expanding, is you partnered with this group PS that does these privacy suites at LAX airport. Anthony, I did this last July and it was so much fun. We talked about it on air, but for those to refresh them, it's great. It's kind of almost like a hotel experience before you get on the flight. You go in, you're greeted, you go to a private suite, you get drinks, food, snacks, a great privacy space, your own bathroom. I could go on and on about how awesome it is. Then when you're ready to go, you go through basically private TSA. I was the only one there. And then they put you in a car and drive you straight to the plane. You get to walk up the outside steps and look like a baller, which is pretty cool. So where are we at with this program? I think it's fantastic. It's great for actual celebrities that don't have to deal with the riffraff in the airport taking their pictures all the time.
But it sounds expensive, Glenn. How much did you pay?
I did not pay. I worked it out as an experiment to give it a try. There's a cost behind it, but in our society, there's a lot of people that are willing to pay for that. Do you see some opportunity to expand that program to non-celebrity driven airports? And where are we at with that right now?
Yeah. So it's this stuff we've been talking about this a lot on my team over the past few months. It's a congressional authority that we have called RSSP, so Reimbursable Security Screening Program, where we can set up these kind of reimbursement with other kind of regulated entities that want to provide a TSA checkpoint or a TSA checkpoint experience to passengers. So private suites was really our pilot use case. And what happens is this company will come in and say, this is kind of what we want to set up. This is our mission model. This is what we want to bring to customers. Can TSA work with us to align it to their mission? Can we figure out how we get equipment and officers? And what ends up happening is private suites will reimburse the TSA for the use of those officers to help drive down some of those peaks of passenger throughput away from really the LAX lines. The equipment is purchased and gifted to TSA and then operated by TSA for private suites.
Right.
So we love this program on the innovation team because it really sets us up to hit a lot of customer pain points, a lot of airport pain points, which is, the checkpoints aren't getting any bigger. So how do you diversify where folks are coming in? And then from an officer experience, how do you diversify where I'm working every day? How do you get me to work maybe in a calmer environment sometimes and help bring down those spikes? So private suites was, again, the first one we really worked on, and it's going fantastic out at LAX.
Yep.
There's conversations to expand more RSSPs. So there is an authorized agreement right now in Minneapolis at the airport hotel. Unfortunately, it's been closed down because of the pandemic, but my team is kind of looking at this as the gateway to off-airport screening and alternative site screening. So that model is something we're trying to explore. Could you put a screening location at a cruise terminal? And as passengers come off a cruise terminal, they are screened, and then they're brought on some type of chartered bus service, some type of secure, sterile method directly to the sterile side at the airport. Now you're talking hundreds, if not thousands, of passengers who, in an airport like Orlando or Miami, are bypassing that lane. That's kind of a private suite model that we're looking at in partnership with them and others. And then even something as simple as the rent-a-car facility. Every major airport, for space reasons, has moved their rent-a-car facility outside the main terminal hub.
Yep.
How do you have some passengers, maybe even as simply as be able to drop their checked baggage off, but as advanced as getting screened at that location? Now you're taking a lot of that throughput heavy, traffic away from the checkpoints you already have, and you're kind of spreading it out to other parts of the airport. So private suites has been really so successful that it's given us the opportunity to look at that model and try to figure out where else can we apply it and where can we expand it.
So when you're talking about MSP, I think you're referring to the Intercontinental Hotel that's at the airport over there. And I will say, you walk in to Terminal 1 over there, you look on either side and it gives you like the wait time in massive giant numbers. I should have mentioned that earlier when we were on that topic. But I think like the Denver airport, I think they have a W hotel there that you could go straight into the airport there. That would fall under that same agreement where the hotel handles all of that and they pay you guys and et cetera, et cetera.
It can be. So there's alternatives to
it.
It's not a 1-for-1. So there's other programs that we can have in place. The specific aspect of private suites is that it is the reimbursement of it. So, TSA is taking no cost to operate this program in partnership with the entity. From the LAX perspective, and people gripe with us, it's just for celebrities. It's just, but there's other people that go through it. But we have a member on my team who joined us last year, and she worked at LAX for years. She's been in every role at TSA you can think of. When paparazzi are in the terminal or in the kind of loop outside, it's chaotic. I mean, it creates a threat environment that our officers get stressed out. There's cameras flashing. There's issues that might come up. So removing that from the checkpoint, removing that from the standard lane process really does add a security benefit that a lot of people don't really think about because they just see it as this advanced, cool process. But it's really disruptive when that happens in the main terminal. So it's great that we can get it aside and TSA can be reimbursed for it as well. So it's no cost to taxpayer.
When I'm coming out of LAX or JFK with Glenn, the paparazzi's crazy looking for him.
He's a private suite perfect customer then. He can just divert away.
It's crazy. And he's rude. He's so rude.
I mean, come on. It is my private time. And you know how special that is to me. I should be so lucky that anyone would want to take
I've been TMZ. I've been TMZ twice. And one coming out of a TV studio on 5th Avenue or 6th Avenue. And another time somewhere, I think in Vegas, coming out of a casino. And both times I never made it to TMZ.
Oh, that's really
cool though. The first time I was like, I'm being TMZ now.
It's only the first time. I imagine every other time it's
it's only happened to me twice. And both times I was like, TMZ me.
So, Dan, this conversation is going real quick, and I think we're going to run out of time really quick. I want to talk a little bit about what you're talking about, this innovation doctrine, this whole notion of how to think about innovating and all of that before we wrap up today.
This is something broader than just the travel ecosystem. It's broader than government. It's something that we've really been focused on in our first few years of exploration.
Right.
Everybody kind of thinks, and they joke about it, right? Is innovation and government kind of oxymoronic when you talk about it? But what we realized when we took a step back and tried to understand, hey, how do we effectuate the most change and drive a culture of reinvention like we see at some of our industry, peers, Netflix, Apple, Salesforce? How do they do it? We started to work with groups at Stanford. We started to talk to intergov partners, and we realized what we needed more than a strategy, more than a specific guidebook, was a doctrine, right? We needed a non-prescriptive, not a step-by-step guide, but kind of this is how we think, this is who we are, this is who we deliver for, really capstone document for the agency, so that instead of having one innovation group, we can make everybody an innovator. So coming out soon, we just got sign off from our leadership. Our administrator was directly involved in drafting it. Is going to be a government first innovation doctrine. The TSA innovation doctrine kind of outlines what we expect people to act like and how we expect you to bring the culture of innovation to work. So don't be afraid to fail fast. Here's some use cases. Here's some examples of where things have happened, they failed. Make sure that we're thinking about innovation from a customer perspective, from a design perspective, so that we're not innovating for innovation's sake, but we're innovating for passengers and officers. Do it in a pipeline. Make sure that we always have a number of ideas that we're constantly assessing. We're testing hypotheses and we're bringing the best ones forward. And then lastly, have the team structure in place, right? My team's only so big. How do you make more people engaged in the innovation process? Train them on what you're expecting, and then give them kind of the open canvas to go innovate in their own space. There's challenges and opportunities that exist in an airport that no one at headquarters, and myself specifically, doesn't have the visibility into.
Right.
So why would we be the best people to help drive that forward? We need to start making more folks in the field know and feel and educated on how to innovate in their space. So we're incredibly excited about it. We're honored to kind of be one of the first groups to do this in government. We've had a lot of people ask us, what was the process to make this?
Right.
But really, it's what a lot of other groups do. And for your general audience, right, hoteliers and travel professionals, this is something that is universal. That you think about how hotels operate. The manager at the W in Minneapolis. No, I'm screwing up. Where
Denver.
Denver. Thank you. I mean, those are different environments. So where is somebody looking at challenges and opportunities in their space with their local partners? And then do they have the ability and do they have the central intent to go execute against them? That's what we're really trying to unlock here. And we're could not be more excited about the success we've already seen.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing in all businesses, right? Is when the person in charge is waiting for direction, right? And it's like, well, not sure if I can do that. It's like, well, you're in that position for a reason. So it's a personality too, because you can put all this into place, but if the person doesn't have that personality, that's a problem. And I've seen that many, many, many times, where you give them all the ability to make a decision and they don't do it, and they're waiting for headquarters.
Right. And if anybody hasn't read it, what the book No Rules, the Netflix kind of culture guide, I think it's just one of the best examples of that, where you have the authority to do, act in Netflix's best interest. We're trying to just get people act in TSA's best interest, and know that if you are the person in closest proximity to the challenge and closest proximity to the opportunity, you are the person most reliable to make that decision, to assess the viability and the desirability of that outcome. So getting that culture change, getting that push down to all levels of the workforce is something that we want to do, because it makes my job easier, right? We just have more innovation happening organically in more places. We're facilitating, not leading.
Every mission statement I have for a hotel starts with the same thing. Any question can be answered, any answer can be questioned. And as long as you do something in good faith for the customer, you will be supported. So even if it's a mistake, it was in good faith, we will support that and maybe just retrain that thinking process. But those are the two things that are the most important thing I find in turning around or really giving people their kind of charge is that you can make these decisions and you may make a bad decision, but that's okay. We're going to retrain you or go through the steps of how we could have made a bad decision. But making no decision is a lot worse sometimes and we just saw, unfortunately, what just happened recently in the news when you don't make a decision.
Yeah, we chalk it up. One of the lines we talk about, the greater risk is comfortable inaction, right? Sitting, deciding, oh, this could be a risky path forward. Well, start comparing that to the risk of not taking the first step. Start comparing it to what happens if we continue to think about the externalities, the negative externalities, rather than the actual challenge in front of us. It's never to say go in just guns a-blazing with an idea. Test, hypothesize, build minimally viable products to test out what you're thinking, but start moving, because comfortable inaction really is the death sentence for us.
And when people are trying to hurt this country or another country, like we're 20 years away from 9/11. This is when, mediocrity sets in. This is when you become comfortable. This is when we become a soft target. And I think you've seen that in history, throughout history, that they wait. And then when everybody gets soft and they forget about what happened in 9/11, that's when there's a problem.
It's prior outcomes are no indicator of future successes. So we are always, as TSA, as DHS, as the government, we are well tapped into emerging threat vectors. We talk a lot now about the kinetic versus cyber and what that looks like. So we're staying ahead of it. And then, Anthony, to your point, right, we know coming 20 years off, the threat landscape has changed and we're innovating to stay ahead of it. Our agility is really our only unwavering advantage. Enemies have the same tech. They understand our process. So really, it's our ability to move quick to outpace them that we really need to not regain, but maintain going forward.
And it's still amazing to me that you guys let Glenn on a plane, but whatever.
Well, thanks. Now you're going to ruin it, and I won't be able to get to LA in a couple of weeks. But Dan, I got to ask you, you travel often. You were talking at the beginning of the show how you've been through a lot of the airports. What have you learned that you're able to apply to the sense of TSA innovation throughout all your travels?
I flew back through Boston last week, and I talked to everybody at the airport, right? Yeah. So coming off the Memorial Day travel, I was chatting with officers. Hey, how'd it go? How was the last few days?
Do they know who you are?
Come up? No. So that's always we 60,000+ workforce, right?
Wow.
So anonymity is to the benefit sometimes. So anytime I travel, I use it as an opportunity to do some end user engagement and chat with folks who I'm here to serve. I am innovation has no goal in and of itself other than improve the lives of our officers. So I was in Boston. Officer O'Donnell and I chatted standing on either side of a piece of machinery for about 20 minutes, talking about how the weekend went, talking about what his experience has been. And for me, that's invaluable, right? I now know some of the challenges that they've had with training. I have some of the ideas of the challenges they've had with onboarding. So that's for me personally. For me as a general traveler, right? I always look, if I'm flying into an airport and I know I'm flying out of that airport, take a look at the queues. What's it look like? Do you think there's a long queue? If you don't have pre-check, does the standard lane look a little bit long? And just kind of almost like where you parked your car, red section 8A. Remember kind of what that looks like. So when you're planning to get to the airport, you have enough time to get through the.
I've started taking pictures of where I park.
I do the same thing.
Can we outlaw black luggage?
Outlaw black luggage?
Yeah, because everybody's got the same suitcase.
We gotta get you a little tag or something.
You got to get one of those pink ribbons.
No, I have a big red tag that says big red bag, but or big red tag it says. Yeah. But it's like everybody's got the same suitcase.
I gotta tell you, I don't know if it's one of those, I don't know what the battery type is. I throw an air tag in my bag now because I've been flying a lot of CRJs where you have to gate check your bag.
Yeah.
I just throw an air tag in it, and then I know right when it comes within 20 feet of me, I go, oh, my bag's coming up. So
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
the little Apple. I don't have one with me right now. Little Apple AirTag. It's like a location tracker.
And
Glenn's gonna go find
tells
one.
and it tells you your luggage is coming. It dings you on your phone.
My friends over at Ideas provided me with.
There you go.
I thought they were our friends too. My friends. I don't get those.
I went and visited them at their home office last week in Minneapolis.
Well,
so,
excuse me.
yeah, waiting to see the cool jacket they gave me. But yeah, here it is.
You get all the cool things.
Little tile, exactly.
Yeah.
It'll tell you, if you look around, it'll search for it. So
and what do
I always know where it is.
You put that in your bag. You put that in anywhere.
I just leave it in I got one in my backpack. I got one in my my bag just in case I ever have to check it. In case I ever have to gate check it if we're going on a smaller plane. So they're great. Yeah.
I need to attach it to my wife's phone is what I need to do.
The keys and everything. So.
Yeah. I'm going to use it for my keys, I think.
My favorite questions every day to my wife is, where are my keys? Did you see my wallet? Where's my water bottle? I can't find my glasses.
Well, this is why I have rules and I put everything in the same place every day.
No, I do too.
Producer Suzanne says she has one on the dog.
All right, that's a good idea.
Practice now.
That's a really good idea.
All right, Dan, any final words? Any summations you'd like to make here before we wrap up and see you again next year when we're all Real ID?
We'll see when Real ID is in effect. So that can be my first summation. If you can, please go get your Real ID. It'll be easier for you mainly as the passenger.
And what's the process? You just go to the DMV?
There's different processes, or there's different requirements as far as proof of identity you have to bring. Every state and Commonwealth is pretty good on the DMV website, going through a checklist about what you need. I believe there's also one on the DHS and TSA website. So dhs.gov, tsa.gov, you can find that. Go prepared with the types of identifiers that you need. I think it's, a lease or a bill from a cable or some type of provider.
Real ID, I still need a passport to go to a different country, though.
Yeah,
correct.
Right,
correct.
But the Real ID, what's the purpose of it?
It's a more secure form of ID because it's based off of more identity standards that we have.
But it doesn't take the place of a passport in any way, shape, or form.
No, you will not still be able to go internationally with just a Real ID. It's just passport's still the only way there. So get Real ID. If you are planning to travel a lot this summer, not only show up to the airport with an ample amount of time, use the My TSA app, kind of understand what the wait time looks like. And then if you're eligible and you're thinking about it, if you've always been on the fence, get pre-check. There's no competitor to pre-check other than the standard lane. It's awesome. It is a unbelievable product. So definitely get pre-check. And then the last thing is, our officers have been through 3 years of up and down travel, kind of on the front lines, going through the pandemic. We understand sometimes the queues are long. We understand that sometimes you're not directly hearing the guidance, but please be respectful. They're respectful to you in kind. So we're out here to support our workforce. Please do the same. They're just here to keep everybody safe and secure.
I always smile and say hello and make sure that they know I'm on their side. Usually it makes my experience better.
I always say please and thank you, and I don't smile and I just keep walking.
Simple manners.
I'm very efficient, though.
Simple manners go a long way.
I make their life easy. I say please. I say thank you. I go out of the way. Like if they're not looking at me, I go, good morning, good afternoon. How are you? Have a great day. Thank you. And then I keep going my way. And I still have the record of being on 100 billion flights, and I've never spoken to another human being as long as I've been on a flight.
That's
so weird, isn't it?
That is weird.
Yeah.
I've never spoken to somebody sitting next to me, except one guy going to play golf like 20 years ago. I don't speak. And now what I'm finding is I used to be the weirdo, like trying to hide. Now no one wants to talk to me. I don't know if I have that look. Yeah, just put those on and we're done.
Yep.
You talk to people, Glenn?
I do. I've used to talk to people more frequently. Now I do the old hello, implying leave me alone for the rest of the flight kind of vibe. Dan, before we let you go, one more question for you. Do you have a favorite airport in the United States outside the TSA thing, and why?
I'm allowed to answer that. I'll say for proximity, I love, and I think I could say this. My local airport is DCA,
Dulles?
and I love Dulles. If I have to go, I go to Reagan for for everything. I don't mind a connecting flight if I gotta, go down to Atlanta, then get to the West Coast, or go to Charlotte, get to the West Coast. I don't mind it at all. DCA is 12 minutes from my house.
Sweet, dude.
It's awesome. It is fantastic. So
I like the Kansas City airport back in the day. It's old now and they're renovating it. I know they're building a new one, but back in the day, it's the same thing. You get off the plane, you can see your car.
yep. Somebody
I
asked
like,
me about the Kansas City airport the other day. That's funny.
What's that?
Somebody asked me about the Kansas City airport the other day. I hadn't thought about it, but
Yeah, they have to update their food and beverage because that lounge up on the second floor is still there and it's been there for 50 years. When I was in the military, that was my home base. So I used to be there all the time. And it was a brand new airport back then in 1986. But I went back last year. I've been going back every year because I sit on the board of trustees of my college. But I know they're building a new one and they need one. But that's one of my favorite airports because it's so easy.
That's cool. Dr. Producer Suzanne says TF Green in Rhode Island or Manchester. I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going to say like Kona or Palm Springs, one of those that have outdoor elements to it as well.
I don't know. I like the old LaGuardia. I like the old LaGuardia airport.
I heard they're going to bring it back because the new airport's just looking too good and they want us to suffer in New York. Man, I can't wait for the new LaGuardia to be
That's embarrassing. When I used to have people come visit me, I said, go to JFK this year. Why? I'll just go to LaGuardia. I have a flight. I said, no, it's embarrassing. Don't go to LaGuardia.
Yeah.
Well, the new LaGuardia is going to be gorgeous.
I got to get the Sconsa people on to talk about building an airport on top of an airport. That looks pretty freaking cool. Dan, thank you so much for being here. You rock. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
Appreciate
it's a privilege. Great seeing you.
Thank you. Sorry, Anthony. All right, everybody. That was a fun show. I really love learning about innovations, particularly when it comes to the TSA, because it affects us all so much. And for you hoteliers out there, remember, you're looking to get all that great business. It's important that you work with the airlines, you work with the airports, you work in ways to make it easier for people to get to you, right?
Right. And I'm just thinking about Airplane, the movie.
Parking is in the parking is in the red zone only. And then you had the two people fighting on there. You remember that?
Yeah.
That was really
Great
funny.
movies.
Go see Airplane. I'm sure that if we watched it right now, there'll be a lot of things that are going to be offensive to everyone. But
are you going to see the new Top Gun movie?
Eventually, I really would like to go see that.
I want to go see it.
That is Suzanne saw it over the weekend with her son John. It is one of those things that you need to see in the theaters, preferably. I think.
Well, he refused to let it go streaming. Tom Cruise, 2019 was supposed to come out, and he wouldn't let it go streaming.
Yeah.
And I think it was listen. I think it's good for a number of reasons. One, it still shows you that we want to go to the movie, so I really want to go. And he's still whether you like him or don't like him, he's still a big box office draw. And I didn't realize he flies his own planes.
I thought that was John Travolta. Or
no, he flies in some of these scenes.
Oh,
he's
he does
flying the plane.
Yeah,
he's literally flying the plane.
Dude, he's like going to space for his next movie for real.
Really?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy the stuff that he does.
Well,
yeah. I think it's for another Mission Impossible movie or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, guys, forget about all of that. What I want you to do is, if you're watching us on video, why not download the audio version of our podcast? There's a reason we're one of the most listened to podcasts for the year. It's because people like you are downloading it while they're walking their dog, driving the commute, all that kind of good stuff. Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, you know the routine by now. Wherever you get your shows, we are there. And if you're listening to us, why not give us a look-see sometime? Find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are. Hey, we are there as well.
Okay, I'm writing down look-see. You said it once this year.
And
that is
my limit.
That's it. That's your max. Once a year, you can say look-see.
All right. How about easy peasy? Where do you stand on that?
And moist. How about moist?
Oh, I'm pro moist. All right, everybody. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See y'all tomorrow.
You dirty old man.
The show tomorrow will be